Coming to you from our opulent and luxurious 4x8 refurbished room closet at the national headquarters in Indianapolis. With duct tape studio lights and a mic that you barely can hear, we hope to entertain and educate you. This is the Tango Alpha Lima podcast.
They call me crazy cause I'm facing all my giants. They try to scare me into thinking I can fight it. They tell me I should never even think of trying. But that's just me, I'm gonna live out in defiance.
Hello, 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 and welcome to our special Veterans Day episode of the Tango Alpha Lima podcast. I'm joined as always by Jeff and Ashley, who we'll get to in a minute. But beyond free chow for veterans and mattress deals for everyone, Veterans Day is an important recognition of the dedicated few who have put their signature and their lives on the line in the United States military. Today's show debuts on Veterans Day, so it is befitting that this podcast focuses on this day. We're going to look back at what led to the creation of the holiday, how events surrounding the original Armistice Day founded the American Legion, and what Veterans Day looks like in 2020. But first, let's start by greeting my host. Jeff Daly of the Michigan Dailies is there, looking like the Hey Kool-Aid Man as he jumps through my computer screen. And Ashley Gorbulja Maldonado in the nation's capital of Washington, D.C., which I understand is still there. It's not on fire yet, anyway.
Yet.
Jeff, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing great out here in California. I'm looking forward to spending the day not buying mattresses at all.
There's nothing wrong with a good mattress.
I feel guilty about that, but I'm not going to buy a new mattress, no.
How about you, Ashley? Will you be buying a mattress? Will you be going to Lone Star for a free steak?
Considering I'm still in phase 2 in the nation's capital in what will be a post-election / election week atmosphere / all of the above, I will probably be ordering in and watching TV.
Yeah. I don't know how you guys spend Veterans Day, but like for me, it's kind of like working at the American Legion National Headquarters. Every day is basically Veterans Day. So I treat it as if it's just me day. So I usually don't do much of anything. I'm usually in Cabo San Lucas with my in-laws. Okay. And so I usually wander off the beach by myself and wander over and have a few Guinnesses and watch TV and just experience the day by myself. But
painting a beautiful picture.
Cabo San Lucas is spectacular. You know, I go up there and then I leave a full one with a little note, for my boys in Bravo Company, 3rd Battalion, 116th Infantry, and I roll on with my day. So, like I said, we're going to be talking about Armistice Day, Veterans Day, the founding of the American Legion, and, looking at what this year holds for us. So, Jeff, why don't we start with you, buddy?
All right. Well, we are talking about Veterans Day, but before there was Veterans Day, there was Armistice Day. And Armistice Day existed to acknowledge and remember the agreement between the Allies and the Germans on 11 November 1918. And that commemorated the end of fighting, which marked the victory for the Allies and defeat for Germany. It was signed in Compiègne, which is in northern France, and came into effect at 11 a.m. At 11:01, there was dramatic silence of gunfire, explosions, and warfare ending. When President Woodrow Wilson made November 11th a national holiday in 1919, he originally named it Armistice Day, and the purpose was to stress a push for peace as well as give gratitude to the troops that died in World War I. In 1954, Armistice Day was renamed Veterans Day by President Eisenhower to include all veterans, not just those who perished in World War I, and that is the holiday that we are recognizing today. Now that audio is very chilling to me. And I wanted to point out that it's not an actual field audio recording that was captured and dug up later, but apparently it was expertly reproduced. And to me, it's still very chilling. One thing that stands out is how quickly we go from projectiles of war to silence to birds chirping in the background. And that transition to me is something that really sticks out. And I'm going to ask both of you to kind of talk about this Armistice to Veterans Day transition and anything about this that kind of sticks out to you.
I love the idea that everything stopped at a certain time. Like, the closest we'll have come to it, and certainly in my lifetime, I guess, is Desert Storm 1, where they set a specific time that we were going to stop firing and nobody was supposed to move and everything else. But I mean, if you look at, the Iraq War clearly never had a mission accomplished moment, if you will, and Afghanistan's still kind of going on, battle against, ISIS. Korea was never even, officially. I guess in Vietnam you had the helicopters taking off from the roof of the embassy, but you never really had the moment, the definitive moment like you did in World War One, and even World War Two. There was, to a certain extent, even once the conflict with Germany was over, you still had Russians and Americans trying to secure off areas. I just think it's kind of neat the way that happened. Ashley?
Yeah, I'm just gonna put my nerd hat on just from a statistic kind of stat standpoint, and I mean, just to kind of touch back on what you're talking about, just the war to end all wars. It's that dream that's yet to really be realized. I mean, we're just still, as you mentioned, in these conflicts that don't necessarily have this hard stop date, right? And to have something quite like that in World War One, where you had military and civilian casualties, that was 40 million. Estimates range from 15 to 22 million deaths, and about 23 wounded military personnel, ranking among the deadliest conflicts in human history. So to have that moment, or that sigh of relief that there was just some sort of just stop. And it's hard to come up with a word, because it's I can't imagine how that felt. Just not just as a country, but multiple countries, as a just global phenomenon, if you will.
Yeah, I think global's the right term too, because there was a lot of conflicts that involved a lot of nations. Obviously, Napoleon and all the conflicts in Europe, but this was literally worldwide. That had never happened before. The World War One raged across battlefields that we don't even really talk about. You're talking about all through the Middle East, things were going on. North Africa, there were things going on. The Austro-Hungarian Empire, there were things. I mean, it was literally global. And I obviously yeah.
Well, I was just going to say the numbers that Ashley brought up they're big numbers, and then what you're talking about is the geography, and to have at a specific time globally, right, everything just stopped. We go from killing, knowing that we're about to stop killing, to then not killing anymore through a great footprint on this planet. And it was like a choreography of peace. It's weird. We're doing this conflict dance, and then all of a sudden there's a genre change, and now we're doing a peaceful ballet. And I don't know if we will ever see that again.
Yeah, the weirdest thing to me is that they had to have, the two sides had to have come together and been like, okay, we'll do this at 11:01 tomorrow, and it's like, okay, but we could keep trying to kill each other in the meantime, right? And they're like, oh yeah,
there's a lot of unspoken trust there, right? I feel in modern day, even from a communication standpoint, I think about the global spread of saying no, we're stopping, and the honoring of that agreement is so powerful, because You look at some of the, modern day conflicts from, third world countries to first world countries to everything that's going on in the U.S. and far. You look at those big pictures and you're just like, what's changed? Like, what did we lose a little bit of that trust, that honor, that humanity, right? And I think this is just so important as a day, not just for veterans, but like we've said, globally, to really reflect on just war.
Yeah.
It's weird that you said that, because I also think when you asked what's changed, warfare doesn't look anything like warfare did back then.
Sure.
As much as warfare then didn't look like warfare during the Revolutionary War. So
I don't know what you're talking about. I had biplanes flying over me all the time in Afghanistan. Little guy hanging off the wing, dropping down bomblets on people.
Right. So yeah, that's I think that change in warfare, it's a little different now because we have, we're in people's villages, and it's not big battlefields and trenches dug and all that sort of thing, and I think everybody kind of wanted it to stop, because war was just as deadly even when you weren't being shot at, when you're trying to survive in those trenches. And I think people just were ready. They were ready before, but now it's official. And the trust thing that you talked about, Ashley, it's true. And I don't know if they necessarily trusted them, but I think they wanted to with every fiber of their being, because it was nothing that the world had ever seen before.
Absolutely.
Yep. All right, well, let's take our first commercial break here, and we will be back with you in a minute.
Did you know the American Legion magazine is the most frequently read periodical in the nation? True story. Find out why by joining today at legion.org/join.
All right, folks, welcome back to our special Veterans Day edition of the Tango Alpha Lima podcast. And I'm going to talk just briefly about sort of the origins of the American Legion. Again, we came out of World War I, and before the troops had even returned home, anybody who's been overseas, that the travel home always takes long because everything gets delayed. And so in 1919, as many of the like Teddy Roosevelt and some of the other leaders were still stuck in Paris, the morale started to plummet. As you can imagine, they were kind of wondering, what are we all doing here? It's time to go home. Let's get this thing done. And so Teddy Roosevelt and some other officers met, and they had dinner to discuss how morale was lower. And one of the things that they wanted to talk about was they talked with General Pershing about perhaps founding a new veterans organization that would help lift the spirits. So as they had this dinner and they talked about it, and they all agreed that it was probably a good idea to make this happen. So in March 1919, the Paris Caucus was held at the Cirque de Paris, and they had originally expected about 300 people to attend. There was some discussion about whether it would be officers or whether they would let the enlisted guys in, and they were bound and determined that they would also let enlisted in. Well, the 300 turned into more than 1,000. As a matter of fact, they started recording names, and there were just so many people there that they stopped even doing that. And everyone went in and they kind of had their say. And the first thing they did was they formed committees to figure out what the preamble would be, what the name of the organization would be, what some of the bylaws and the Constitution would state. And they came up with sort of a draft, but they first came up with a temporary name, which was the American Legion. And they had outlined their purpose and in some draft language for the preamble of the Constitution.
We, the members of the military and naval services of the United States of America in the Great War, desiring to perpetuate the principles of justice, freedom, and democracy for which we have fought, to inculcate the duty and obligation of the citizen to the state, to preserve the history and incidents of our participation in the war, and to cement the ties of comradeship formed in service, do propose to found and establish an association.
So eventually, obviously, the troops made it home where they continued to work that they had begun in Paris. And by the first Armistice Day in 1919, more than 15,000 members gathered in Minneapolis for the first American Legion National Convention. It's kind of interesting how the Legion came. Many of the founders of the Legion were obviously officers, Teddy Roosevelt and others, and they had Teddy Roosevelt kind of being the spearhead guy for this. He was very conscious of the fact that he didn't want it to be an East Coast Ivy League officers like establishment Republican organization. And so they reached across the aisle and there was a congressman from Delaware who was a Democrat. They had the mayor of Dallas who was a Democrat out there. They had I think the Speaker of the House from Missouri, if I'm not mistaken. So they brought all these people in, and when they had their first convention and they were going to choose a first national commander, someone put Teddy Roosevelt, put his name in as a candidate, and he came right out and said, no, I'm not taking this job under any circumstance, that this needs to be an organization which starts fresh without any of sort of the political undertones that came from his name. I think it's fascinating, the fact that, what would have been, it's kind of as if Washington had just been like, you know what, I've done my time, you guys handle it. But Jeff, I mean, what strikes you most about the origins of the American Legion? How fast it grew?
Well, it's amazing how quickly that it grew. I think they had 1,000 posts by the 12th month, and the story that you just said about Theodore Roosevelt Jr. not wanting to be the national commander, that's also kind of the roots of our nonpartisan kind of ethos and mantra, that we don't get involved in that. And he had said that he did not want it to be politicized, and that him being the national commander would have politicized it. So I appreciate that. It's a little funny to me that it was a big conversation about whether the dirty enlisted people were going to be able to join or not, which is also another one of our traits, is that we don't recognize rank. And I got to tell you, I love talking smack to higher ranked officers in the post. It's amazing. Right. I love being like, how did you lead anybody? I'm wondering how you learned to tie shoes. I can say that now. And so maybe they're probably in there rolling in their graves, second guessing letting the enlisted in. But it is it's important, I think, in that transition, because their mission was about the morale, what to do with all of these people who were coming back damaged in a way that it hadn't happened before. And I think just allowing everyone to congregate together, and I've talked about this before, about camaraderie being one of the best features of this organization. And I do love how fast that it grew, and I love the size that we're at now, but I'd love to get us back, obviously, to our peak membership levels. And knowing the history like this is it's inspiring to me. It's inspiring in the nerdy way that taking the basic training when I first joined, calling national because I didn't have my membership number and I didn't want to really get active in anything until I knew what it was about, and I need you to give me my membership number right now so I can take this basic training course. And I called 2 or 3 times and they didn't kick me out, and I eventually did get my number. So this kind of background knowledge is really important to me, and I think it's important for members. And when we talk about retention and things like that, to know what we really stand for, where it comes from, and what are the roots that built that, because it's the roots that helped it grow that quickly. To answer your original question.
Yeah. Ashley, what do you got?
I have to echo the sentiment of Jeff. I mean, when you come from, For starters, I'll just start here. I love going into different Legion posts, and I've been to different posts across the country, and the reception's always fun, unique, and you're right. There's just kind of this like melting pot of folks, right? We're like a big old salad. It's a salad or soup. I'm actually really hungry, so I think we're talking about Veterans Day. So I think it's great too, because especially being a post 9/11 vet, being younger while I was still in school, still in the service, I would go into posts and it really took it as an opportunity to learn from folks with different experiences and really bring together that camaraderie. But I also got to poke fun at folks who were, maybe had a higher rank than me, or could share some of the hilarities, whether it was, a different era, or, whether it was a Vietnam veteran, a Korea veteran. Like, there was always just something that we could find common ground with and just laugh about, even though our experiences were drastically different. And I think what's so important about Veterans Day and just the American Legion is all of the good that we continue to do as a volunteer organization, and how it's an extension of our service. And to have a day that is focused on those who are have served, right? It's just so important, so very important. So I'm really glad that we're talking about this today.
One of the greatest things that I experience is convention, and it's for the exact reasons that Ashley was saying. Like, every department is a little bit different, and it's so great it's amazing how many people in the Legion I know. And again, I'm a person who doesn't really like people, but I love Legionnaires. And when I go to the parade, I'm probably the only dude in the American Legion that absolutely loves the parade, because I get to see people from each department, and I know one or two people from each department. I love running out. I love meeting them. I love the parade, but it's, I would imagine that a hospitality suite featuring the Hollywood Post 42, or is that what it is, 42? 43? I would think that Hollywood Post 43 is a little bit different than the hospitality suites I go to with the Minnesota guys. And I'm using Minnesota because Minnesota is my favorite department. I love everything they do. I will go to any event Minnesota throws, except their ice fishing, which is where I'm drawing the line, because I'm not going to sit on a thing of ice over a hole with a fishing pole. But I just love seeing all the different departments. I think it's great.
I will agree with you. In my long esteemed Legion career, I can still remember my first convention, which was our last convention, and it was so cool, just meeting people from different parts of the country. And I had really only been exposed to my post at that time. I literally had never stepped foot in not even another post at that point. And then I'm going to this national convention. I'm seeing people from everywhere. I'm seeing people from Michigan, from my home state. I looked away when I saw Ohio, and then I
can't escape the smell.
So it was like being in one big global post, and it was pretty exciting and fascinating. So I can imagine for these guys, 15,000 people from all different parts of the country coming together at the beginning. And I'm telling you, it even today, that experience for somebody new, to just come together.
If there's one thing I know about soldiers returning from war, it's that they are very well behaved. So absolutely. I'm sure there was absolutely no shenanigans going on in Minnesota in 1920 in the middle of winter. I'm sure that was just a crime-free, probably to bed at a reasonable hour.
Sounds like your evenings.
Dude, you would have been in bed by 7.
Dude, there was absolute nonsense going on at that convention. You know it, I know it, and I think it's spectacular. I think it's great.
I just think about the reunion kind of aspect from it too. Like, imagine being like in a detachment, or like seeing someone and then like just poof, like you just don't see them. You don't know what happens to them. And then like you just stumble upon them at this like large gathering. You're like, oh my gosh, not only are you alive, but you're like, do you remember when? And I know you. And they're like, you've just like rekindled a relationship that you didn't think you were ever going to have again. And I think that's what's so powerful.
To me, one of the most amazing things is just the way the Legion did grow so fast. And like, you got to think about it. This isn't like a Black Lives movement. It's spontaneous. Like, there are some advantages to technology nowadays. If you have a thought and you want to start a group, you just throw it up on the internet and you're always going to get some people to join. But this had to pass by word of mouth. I mean, there wasn't like, you could throw letters back and forth, but if you've ever tried to communicate with someone to coordinate something by letter, I mean, that's a nightmare of epic proportions. And to do it
It's
like
a lost art.
Yeah, like
Letters.
even a couple. Try to coordinate a meeting to have a meeting about another meeting just by email. It'll take you 4 emails to coordinate the coordination of the coordinating. Like, it's just amazing to me that they had so many people so fast, and it really, a lot of people question like how the Legion is such a ground up organization. Well, this is how we started. Like, you were named the department commander of Arizona. There wasn't a guidebook that told you how to run your department back then. There was nothing. Like, so you just started doing it. Like, you were in charge. And I think it's great. It was, it was kind of the Wild West. I think it's just spectacular. So, yeah.
I've been wanting to make sound effects all day, and I'm also very hungry.
Yeah, because we don't have the rapid fire. Pew, pew, pew. Pew, pew, pew. Pew, pew. So, Ashley, let us go to you. What do you got for us that you wanted to discuss on this Veterans Day?
All right, so Veterans Day 2020. I just kind of wanted to discuss, 2020 has been a challenging year in itself. And, with Veterans Day right around the corner, right now, the president, all of the above. Typically we're going to see parades, gatherings, speeches at monuments, national cemeteries, to, veterans honoring the day together. And this year things are a little different because of the pandemic. Regulations and reluctance to keep people from gathering, to, American Legion family members, still out there honoring all those who have served. And because, the purpose of the holiday, and it really is, it's a priority for our organization. So, just reflecting on the goal to honoring all who have served. The American Legion has seen changes in recent times, and we're a resilient group. We really are. And since it's been chartered by Congress, our group, the American Legion, it literally took an act of Congress to make significant changes to things like membership requirements and things over the years, and lobbying. And I just want to acknowledge how far we have come, how resilient we are as a group, and how, regardless of everything that's going on in the world right now, that we have an opportunity to continue to, instill, good faith and volunteerism, and really perpetuate the values that really are the pillars of the American Legion.
We honor our fallen on Memorial Day, although the American Legion remembers them every day. Veterans Day, however, is for all who served. While many veterans are humble, there is no such thing as insignificant military service. It's why the American Legion only requires a single day of honorable military service to join our ranks. We understand that it isn't just the sacrifice and service that are important, but the willingness to offer your life in defense of this nation that sets veterans apart.
So I just want to continue to emphasize, as we're, celebrating veterans, and as we're celebrating veterans, today and every day here at the American Legion, that, we continue to reflect on our goal to honor all those who have served, and continue to take care of each other and support one another. And I'll turn it over to you, Jeff.
Cool, I appreciate that turnover. As you mentioned early on, you said that it takes an actual act of Congress to make things different. And we're about a year in to our latest act of Congress, which was the Legion Act. And the Legion Act is important because it's letting in a lot of people who served during times where conflicts were happening and people were dying, but it wasn't being recognized because there wasn't an actual declaration of war. It doesn't mean that warfare wasn't happening just because a war wasn't happening. So and it goes along with just what the national commander said. We want to honor everyone who put their life on a signature line, whether they ended up having to give it or even put it in danger or not, they were willing to. And and it's still just 1% of the people. It's just 1% of the people who are willing to take a pen to an ink stain some tree carcass and say, with this ink stained tree carcass, I am willing to die for my country. And that makes it worth it, and that makes them worth being a Legionnaire.
Yeah,
I really want you to put that on a shirt and then have a picture of Groot on it. Like a veteran Groot with a heart.
Okay, I'm
You just
assuming
made
that's
so
some
many
nerd reference
good-
that I don't get.
Yeah, probably.
Mark gets it.
Yeah, I get it. No, it was
Sorry.
well played. No, I mean,
It was well played,
here's
yes.
the thing. Like, we say that a veteran is a veteran is a veteran, and we actually believe that. Now, that doesn't keep everyone within from self-selecting, but of course they do. Like, the Marines always think that the Marines have it the hardest. In the Army, it's always the infantry. And then if you're not infantry, it's like the Cav Scouts. And the infantry guys look down on the Cav Scouts. Cav Scouts look down on everybody else. You got the Green Berets up top looking down on the Rangers. Like, that's always going to happen. But it was important that we didn't differentiate on rank or anything else. And if you really think about it, like the guy who was serving in the Air Force on December 5th, in 1941 in Hawaii, you're like, oh yeah, that guy, I don't know, he joined the Army to be in the Air Force. I guess he's sitting there in Hawaii doing nothing. And like the next day, he's like a hero. Why? Because the war broke out all around him. Like, he didn't join thinking like, all right, it's on. It's on like Donkey Kong. Like, he just joined, and then planes are all over the place. Like, a lot of people didn't have the luxury of serving in wartime. I say luxury. I mean, I don't mean it that way. Like, wow, serving in war is the greatest thing ever. But I mean, like, there's some people who feel touchy that they served during a period of relative peacetime, but that's not what military service is all about. Everyone signed to do their job. Not everyone's going to be kicking indoors and doing water charges on the door and everything else. So I think it's great that we honor all veterans on Veterans Day, not just, a particular, branch of them or just a special group, but that's just me. I think it's great.
I mean, I'm going to tell you, as a Marine, we want the rest of you there celebrating with us too.
Because it gets pretty boring when it's just you guys sitting around with your coloring books.
We have shared activities.
And like Ashley said, 2020 is, it's a different kind of year. So Veterans Day this year is looking a lot different than Veterans Days in the past, at least from my perspective. Mm-hmm. We're not going to national cemeteries gathering and listening to politicians speak. We're not doing parades. I mean, there's some variations on it to kind of fit with the day, but the thing is we have to think about doing things a different way. And what I love is that we're still doing it.
Yeah.
Even though it's different and it's not what we're used to, we're adapting, we're improvising, we're overcoming, and we're still, charging forward with the mission. And that's what I love about the American Legion. I do, really. And I'm not saying that to be a de facto commercial here right now, because I didn't know what the American Legion was until approximately 3 years ago. And it has grown to be a part of me, and I love that we do these things, and when they get interrupted, we still find a way to do them. Mm-hmm. And that's, to me, is it may make the 2020 version of Veterans Day even better, because we didn't have the option to do it the way that we normally do it, but it's so important that we're still finding ways to do it. And that is huge to me, that and the fact that there are restaurants out there that are still finding a way to give us free food. And I'm sorry, Mark, I know you said at the beginning that it's not all about the free food, but it's going to be there, and I'm going to get some of it.
Yeah, and you should probably go to Lone Star, because I guarantee you there'll
I was
be
about to ask.
gazillion people there. I'm going to spend this Veterans Day, to me, not hearing politicians speak is a good thing. As far as I'm concerned, I'll do the cemetery thing when it's appropriate, which is generally Memorial Day, but I'm going to pick up the phone. I'm going to call my battle buddies. Hey, Schwilly. Hey, Shram. Hey, St. Jock. Hey, all you guys that I served to Plank.
You have fun
I'm going to
friends.
call those guys and say, hey, what's going on? What are you doing? Like, we've all changed a lot. Like, when we first went to Afghanistan, I don't think there was only one that was like married. Like, and now we all have kids that are little tiny things and we're responsible for them. And it's like, we joke all the time. It's like there was one guy in my squad who was not the brightest bulb on the Christmas tree. And every time my kids do something stupid, I'm like, dude, I got that private again. I got that guy who couldn't figure out how to do land navigation. Like, it's killing me. And it's nice to see everyone as we grow. But that's really that's what Veterans Day is all about to me. It's the guys I served with. And, it's just making sure that they're doing okay and catching up with them. Again, I'm not the most social cat in the entire planet, but for one day a week, it doesn't kill me. I like talking to those guys.
So
Ashley,
I just want to be clear. So Veterans Day is like you day. It's like me, myself, and I, but like I call my buddies. Okay. I'm putting it all together. I'm picturing you at Lone Star. I'm
my wife and I
do.
We do instead of Father's Day, it's not a Father's Day. So I'll usually have breakfast with my kids and stuff, but then I'm not responsible for whatever mayhem they get into the rest of the day. It's just my day to relax. Like, I love my kids, but if you've ever been around kids that are arguing about whether to watch The Avengers, Paw Patrol, or whatever else, and they're just screaming at each other, it's like, this is, kids are great when they're cute. When they're not, they stink. Kids are horrible. And it's like, I just want to be happy. I want to be happy to be a father. I want to see them all lined up in their nice, clean clothes without poopy diapers and messy fingers and everything. That's how I feel about Veterans Day. Veterans Day is me day. Every other day is you day. Like, this is my one day to be me, which means play computer games and watch Supernatural episodes. Check in with my boys.
Wow. It's weird because, for me so November of last year was a few days right before I got out of the service. And up until that point, I really had not thought of myself as necessarily a veteran, right? Like, I had referred to myself as a veteran or a service member up until that point. And so this year is my first year being a full-fledged veteran out of the service and having time to both transition. And as I reflect over the 8 years of being both a part of celebratory events, all of the above, all the things that we probably aren't going to be able to do, what is that?
You okay?
Do you not hear that, Jeff?
You don't hear that? I feel like we're at a hearing test.
Dude, it was like Ghostbusters in here. All right, well, hopefully nobody else heard that, but I heard it, Ashley.
You heard it?
It sounded like there was a suicide bomber coming into your living room.
What is going on? I was like, I'm in the middle of DC and I'm about to have oh my God.
Oh, wait, are you talking about the helicopter that was here?
Oh, is that what it was?
Was that you? How are you gonna play dumb like that? Make us look crazy.
Well, I was busy worrying about my first Veterans Day buddy check was going to be as soon as we sign off to Miss Ashley there, because you just kind of just went.
Well, dude, all we could hear was a helicopter coming. It sounded like
it sounded like
I live in
Air
Los
Force
Angeles.
One over my apartment.
Helicopters are part of the natural ecosystem here. I don't even think about them.
All right,
well,
California.
I like the fact that you look at us like we're insane as a helicopter's flying 4 feet past your window.
And it just roared in, too, through my mic. And I was like it just stopped me cold. I was like, what is happening?
To get us back on track, that was probably just a formation for Veterans Day.
Yeah, totally.
That's what it was.
To my point, this is a very reflective year for me. And as I've reviewed kind of this 8 years of both being an American Legion member and my 8 years of service, that, I found that my experience as a woman veteran has been a little different on Veterans Day. And I'd be remiss to, not at least acknowledge for the audience, like make sure that you thank women too, because far too often I know what it's like to stand next to my husband with a clean haircut, right, and fresh shaven face, and be extended across me to my husband to say thank you for your service, right? And I know that sometimes, like, as veterans, like, we don't always know what to say. We're just like, you're welcome, or like, it's a pleasure to serve. Like, some people have a little bit more scripted, and other people are just like, yeah, I did what I thought I was supposed to do, right? And I have found that in my years as being a service member and now officially as a veteran, about 6 out of the 8 times where I have done celebratory events, even in like uniform and or like even a Legion polo, I was still not recognized as a part of the veteran community based on like when I'm young, like, and they thought I was still in, they thought I was somebody's wife, which I was a spouse, but I would be remiss if I didn't mention that as my experience on Veterans Day and how important it is that we continue to acknowledge women in service, because like I said, like me having this 2020 reflective year, my first year, like I said, I'm probably going to order some Olive Garden and watch a show and, check in with a few people and really take the day for me. But it's weird not to be able to celebrate that and to really say like, I am a full-fledged veteran this year. Like, this is my year. Is it really though? Right? So
Ashley, I have apologized to you 100 times. When I reached past you, I thought you were in high school.
Oh my God.
There was no way that you could have been in the military.
I was thinking about what the best answer to that is. Like,
such a
thank
goof.
you for your service, and it's like, well, my probation officer said it would get me out of a lot of trouble.
I see. Like, I like to
in-
mess with
in
people too
seriousness-
sometimes, but like I understand.
In seriousness, what do you guys say?
I mean,
I
so,
always thank them for letting me serve, because to me, my time in service was great. I was so blessed that I actually got into the military, just because there may or may not have been some whiting out of medical documents to get into the military, or faking my eye exam to get into the military. So like when I finally got in, I was so grateful, and I'm grateful for every day I spent in the military. I loved it. I mean, I would have stayed in.
to echo that. I have to echo that because, for me, like the military was an opportunity to alleviate like financial burden off my family, to give me the independence. It gave me skill set. It gave me benefits. It gave me leadership skills. It gave me all of the things that make me who I am today. So I'm so grateful that, right after, it would have been Veterans Day 2011, I raised my right hand and I took the oath, and that was really meaningful for me. So typically like Veterans Week is always important to me and something I think about. But
I like your idea of Veterans Week, though. It's like my wife's birthday, which seems to
birthday month, birthday
sometimes
week.
a month. Yeah, like I think there should be a Veterans Week. Now I get a whole week that I don't have to come out of my man cave.
It's
I can
kind
watch
of
a lot of Netflix.
I think of like Armed Forces Week, right? Like a lot of folks don't realize like Armed Forces Week is really where we kind of, we divvy out for each of the branches, and then we have a combined Armed Forces Day, and that's really to, appreciate all those that are wearing the uniform actively, whether they're Reserve Guard, et cetera, right? And then Memorial Day obviously is for those who have since passed or given their lives and paid the ultimate sacrifice. And then you have Veterans Day where you're thanking folks who have served. And I think that there's always this confusion with the three. And I know that we talked a little bit about that with the commander's quote. But it's so important. And it's also important from, like I've mentioned, just for me being a millennial women veteran, that typically they're like, oh, you don't look like a vet. What are vets supposed to look like? And then they can't.
You look like a
Don't tell me I look like
JROTC. To answer,
you know what? I'm going to come to the screen. Cool.
To answer my own question, that I think Mark answered, he gave an answer to what he said. He thanks them for allowing him to serve. I usually, and I would love if people went on our Facebook and tell us how they answer the question. Mm-hmm. I always say, I appreciate you saying that, unless it's an attractive lady. And I said, I didn't even know you, but I did it specifically for you.
Wow.
War
cheesiest pickup lines ever. It's like, how much does a polar bear weigh? Enough to break the ice, babe. I just say, like, it's a pleasure to serve. Effective. Thanks for acknowledging me. Like, I think it's important.
All right, Jeff, why don't you start us off with a Veterans Day shout out if you got one.
Okay, I'm gonna do. We were given these cool ones because we are shouting out posts, and I love to shout out posts. So this one's not a post. It's the California American Legion Riders chapters 9 and 10 have joined together for a Veterans Day ride through Alameda and Contra Costa counties. The riders will travel in parade formation with 3x5 flags. The route includes ride-by visits to Livermore VA Hospital in Alameda County and Martinez VA Hospital in the Triple C, Contra Costa County.
When he says that, whenever you say that, it reminds me of like Lily from AT&T when she hits the SAP button and rolls her R's. I don't think I've quite heard you doing the R rolling.
It's a thing. It's a thing in California that the newscasters, no matter their descent,
Peggy Hill.
they will say things like, well, we go on the 405 and you get off here and there, and then you go to the Burrito Factoria, and they say the word in any language. They try to emulate, like if it's a thing. But I do. To get back on track, the riders always seem to lead the way with things of getting out there, getting in the community, being visible, and getting stuff done. If I didn't think my mother would come here and smack me across the back of the head, I'd probably get a motorcycle and join them. Plus, I live in West Hollywood, and wearing leather sends the wrong message. So I have a lot of reasons that I'm not joining the riders. But they are always out there, and they are doing things. You guys are killing me.
Such a picture.
Oh, man. Yeah, Jeff, you win. You win.
You win.
It's
Yep.
all right, Big Papa Bear. Let's move on to Ashley.
That was a big 10-4. All right, so in all seriousness, I want to shout out a post out in Woodland, Colorado. So they put a twist on traditional Veterans Day dining, right? So in order to be compliant with CDC social distancing guidelines, instead of doing like one massive dinner, which a lot of folks are used to, whether, it's a fish fry or a pancake breakfast, whatever the case may be, right? So excited. I wish I actually knew what the menu was because I'm very hungry. I digress. So basically, instead of being elbow to elbow at this post, they've broken dinners down into 2 sessions with a limit of 175 guests per session, allowing them to safely space dinners and clean out in between sessions. Like, that's awesome, right? Like, they're making stuff happen. They're following the guidelines. They're being safe, extra precautious, but it's still what it's doing is providing the community an outlet to say, like, we can go do this thing. Like, we don't have to necessarily stay inside. If we wear a mask, we go out. We can continue to participate. And the fact that the Legion is leading the way and making that happen is amazing. So I'm super proud. Go Colorado. You got a lot of cool stuff going on there.
Wait, I just want to make sure we know that is post 1980, 1980.
1980. Good copy.
And my shout out is to post 32 in Beckley, West Virginia. Now, I'll say I do know Beckley, West Virginia because it's exactly halfway between my house and Radford University, where we hold Boys State. So when I leave Boys State after a week, spending a week with 50 17-year-olds being in charge of them, I'm usually so exhausted I can't even think straight. So all I have to do is make it to Beckley, West Virginia, and I get a hotel room. I eat at Cheddar's, and I go to sleep at a reasonable hour. So Beckley, shout out to Beckley, West Virginia. But anyway, American Legion Post 32 in Beckley is staging a reverse parade for Veterans Day, where they're going to line up all the parade participants in stationary positions and allow the parade watchers to drive by and view each other. Totally like this idea. It reminds me of, instead of going to a zoo, you go to one of those parks where you drive through in your car. And then the monkeys,
the lights? Oh,
yeah,
the zoo.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I know exactly.
I can't remember what they're called, but I remember we went in my uncle's. We went in a camper one time through one of those safari park things.
Yeah,
and the
safari
monkeys,
park, yeah.
The monkeys ate all the plastic shields off his lights. It was a wild thing. But Beckley, West Virginia, Post 32. Shout out to you guys with your reverse Veterans Day parade. Good on you. Everybody else, we will see you next week. I hope you guys enjoy Ashley, I hope you're watching sci-fi or fantasy on
Trying to escape.
on Veterans Day. Yeah, anything, but I'm not watching war movies. That's the one thing I don't watch. Might maybe I'll watch Family Guy. Who knows? Anyway, Jeff, I don't know what you won't be shopping for leather apparently on Veterans Day, but you do you, buddy. Don't let them beat you down. All right, big man. All right, everybody.
Papa.
We'll see you later. Bye.
Bye.